Hey everybody, Derek here again. I'm here to bring you another video for our Walking Dead countdown to the Season 5 premiere. We are exactly 46 days away from the upcoming 5th season, getting closer. We are almost through the end of August. September is coming, and right afterwards is October. So we're definitely getting closer. Because of the fact that today we're at the 46-day marker, I said I was going to do episode reviews for all of the episodes, and today's is going to be TS-19, which was the first season finale. It was the 6th episode. As people know, Walking Dead only did a 6-episode first season. I think that a lot of reasons for that was just because they were concerned about the show being a hit. Was it going to be successful? Were people going to watch it? And you don't really want to invest a lot into a show that's not going to do well, because AMC is really at a very restricted budget at this time. I mean, you have Mad Men and Breaking Bad, which really don't cost as much. They really have limited the amount of sets that they use, things like that. They really found ways to make them cost efficient. But Walking Dead, you have to be, at various locations. You have to have extras for walkers. You have to have the computer, graphics to get the show realistic, like with the blood or with killing walkers, things like that. It really is a lot of effort that goes into The Walking Dead, so you can't just half, do it. You need to be able to, show that you have a good show. And I think that's why it was only 6 episodes long, but I really felt that it was a pretty good season finale. It left you wanting more. It kind of made you feel disappointed in the sense that it was over as quick as it was here. Not so much as the episode itself, just the fact that it was only 6 episodes. It really was a hit. But these things happen, and Walking Dead came back next season with the 13-episode season. So they definitely improved a lot on the amount of episodes in a season. So I'm going to be doing the review, and again, if for some reason you're just getting into Walking Dead, you're just starting it, please don't watch this video as it may contain spoilers. Okay. So in this episode, the very first thing that happens is that the group ends up going into the CDC. Jenner opened the doors in the last episode, Wildfire, and let them all in. So they go in and they basically see that he's the only one there. All of the other doctors have abandoned it, or they killed themselves, out of shame or just out of fear of what was out there, the zombie apocalypse. They just couldn't handle it. Dr. Edwin Jenner is the only one left, and he's basically been working, trying to find a cure to help, the world. He wants to be able to see if the human race can keep going after all this has happened. So the group comes in. He says, okay, I'm going to take everybody's blood tests, and I'm going to, let you guys stay. I think a part of that was just, maybe he thought that there was another subject there that he could use. And I think in another way, he also felt like he could use some company. I think that maybe being alone for a while was definitely getting to him. And I also just think that it was a way to help some people. I think he had all those things coming together, which was why he let Rick's group in. So they basically all get into the CDC and they get drunk. They have a celebration where they drink his wine and all that, and they were fine with that. And getting drunk affects various people, especially when you have a zombie apocalypse on hand. One of them being Shane. Shane gets extremely intoxicated and ends up confronting Lori while he's intoxicated. And at the beginning of the episode, we see that Shane actually did try to save Rick. Lori, I think, basically thinks that he left him for dead, and that's that. You get to see, us as the audience, we get to see firsthand that Shane actually did try to take Rick with him. He tried to load him onto a bed. He's hooked up to a bunch of tubes. The power goes out, and he puts his, ear to Rick's chest, didn't hear a heartbeat. And let's face it, you got a lot of things going on. They were massacring people in the hallways. The soldiers were killing walkers, killing people too, and just so much commotion going on that Shane had to get himself out of there, or he was going to die too. I can't say that I really blame Shane for wanting to leave Rick there. That's just the way that things had to go. So we see that Shane actually did try to save Rick, but of course Lori doesn't know that. She wasn't there, and of course she doesn't trust Shane. And Shane basically says, hey, I did try to save Rick. I did do my best. I thought he was dead. I honestly did. I'm sorry that you think I'm a liar. I'm sorry that, this happened, but I love you. I mean, he professes his love to Lori. He does have feelings for her, and he sees Carl as like a son, figure to him. But Lori won't have any of it. She doesn't want anything to do with Shane. Again, she thinks that Shane is just going to, hinder her marriage and everything. So Shane does actually try to force himself onto Lori, which ends up uh, with Lori scratching Shane in the face and the neck, which does, get him to leave. But, you see that confrontation there and you realize, that there's a lot of unfinished business there. And we know that if, they, both characters live, they're going to go on and this is going to continue as the seasons go on. So that was definitely a big, revelation there. We also have Andrea who, is still feeling the impact of her sister's death and she's upset. And Dale comes in to comfort her, and basically Andrea says, "Dale, did you see the look on Jenner's face? There's no hope. There's nothing out there for us." She's basically at this point giving up hope. She thinks that the world's over. She's now in she's stuck, and she doesn't know what to do. So she's definitely in a very vulnerable place. Now everybody wakes up the next day, and Dale and the rest of the Dale's basically like, "Hey, we have some questions for you." A lot of people, say, "Yeah, we didn't come here for eggs. We didn't come here for wine. We came here for answers." That's what they want. So Jenner ends up showing them a patient that was in the CDC, and we see the patient die from the virus, and their brainstem comes back. And basically, he explains what happens. Basically, the bite kills you, or just in general, if you die. I mean, it depends on the circumstance, but basically, the way I see it, the way I understand it, is that basically, if a walker bites you, it's almost like sending in an active form of the virus. It's going to basically kill all of your cells. It's going to stop all of your organs from working. It's basically like any other virus. It's just a very active version of the virus. As well as if you just die in general, unless you die from getting shot in the head or getting beaten in the head, just something that doesn't. If it's something that doesn't destroy your brain, and you die, you basically come back as a walker. And what ends up happening is that the virus, it basically right here is your brain stem, probably more in the front of your head, but the middle of it, but you get what I'm saying here. Basically, it restarts the brain stem and brings back the person as a walker, but the you part doesn't come back. And he shows all of the various synapses and all the things that are going on inside the human brain, and he says, that part's not coming back. And he's almost making it seem like you don't know who you are, and that could be very well true. We don't really know necessarily. I mean, we've seen various different things with walkers that make us wonder, well, just how much do they actually recognize of people? We don't know. But he ends up, showing that he shot the patient, which turned out to be either his wife or his girlfriend. It was one or the other. Her name was Candace. And basically, he thought that if she was still living, she would have found the answer to this. And the only reason why he has stayed and done all this work was because he promised her that he would. And I think that Jenner has one of the best quotes in this episode. He says, when it comes to the walkers, everything that you were and anything that you were going to be is gone. It's dead. And I like that. That's one of my favorite quotes. I mean, just, it shows, and it's not just about, the walkers. It also has an impact on us as humans. Because you think about it, if a zombie apocalypse breaks out tomorrow, we are not going to be able to do what we wanted to do for the most part. Like me, I want to be an attorney. Well, I'm not going to be an attorney if the, Walking Dead world starts tomorrow. It's just not going to happen. Or if it does, it's what's the point? I'm pretty much useless, with anything. A lot of other people, and just in general, if you get bit, if you wanted to grow up and start a family, that's gone. You wanted to grow old and retire, that's not going to happen. So many things that you were hoping they're not going to be that anymore. So it's basically not just the walkers, but it's also the people. Everything that you were and everything that you were going to be, it just doesn't matter anymore. And I feel like that basically flows together. And it was definitely a very impactful statement, not just in regards to walkers, but if you could also interpret it for the people too that live there. So what ends up happening is they notice the clock that's counting down, and Dale asks, "What's the clock for?" And Jenner tells him that once it reaches zero, there's no more power, and the plant will basically decontaminate itself. The CDC will decontaminate itself. And what that means is it's going to blow up, with basically air that, it's fire that is so hot that it burns the air and it burns everything around it. And, so they're like freaking out because they realize that, oh, well, if we're in here and it blows up, we're done. They have no more fuel. There's nothing more that they can do. And Jenner basically ends up locking them in the control room. And they're all, this basically becomes a standoff of, are we going to be here and die, or are we going to be able to escape from this? And, these big, huge doors come down that are basically reinforced steel. It takes, like, more power than a rocket launcher to break them open, and they basically have no resources. And Jenner's just basically saying, this is our extinction. This is just us ending. The human race is over. It's just the way things go. That's the way evolution has been. If you believe in the evolutionary theory, basically that a lot of various, creatures have inhabited this earth. I mean, there is evidence of that. We did have dinosaurs, things like that, and they became extinct. And maybe one day the human race may too. We just don't know. And that's just what happened in the Walking Dead world. The majority of the human race has been turned into walkers, or they're just dead and they were eaten. So Jenner thinks of this as just as the end of the world. He says right here, the CDC is just going to wipe us out. Who knows if there's more survivors? I mean, you assume so, but I think that Jenner was just thinking in regards to a scientist this time, and also for himself. He did what he was supposed to do. He doesn't want to go out there and live in the world like this. He's just prepared to let an instantaneous death take him away, and he basically wants everybody else to join him just because there's just nothing out there for them. And everybody reacts to this differently. Like Shane basically points a shotgun at him and tells him to open the door, and Rick ends up having to wrestle it away from him. Shane acting on impulse again. Shane acts recklessly at times. And the thing is, if he would have shot Jenner right then and there, they were never getting out of there. There's no way they would have figured out necessarily how to open those doors. Well, what ends up happening is, it's a conflict of ideals. And, Jenner's basically saying, well, you guys said, like, Rick basically talked with Jenner earlier and said, that everybody that he's known is either dead or basically, he only has Lori and Carl and Shane. Most of the people he knows are dead. And, Jenner's saying, well, how much longer is that going to be before all of you are dead? He's just thinking that right here, right now, it's the best way for them to go out because there's just nothing out there for them. And basically what Rick and Lori are able to do is they're able to, convince him, say, well, why did you, stay here and try to make a cure all this time if you don't feel there's hope? And, Jenner was just basically saying that he was keeping his promise to Candace, because Candace died. And he was basically saying, I was just keeping my word to her. And they're basically saying, well, that's all we want. We want a chance to see if we can make a world out of this. That we don't believe that it's hopeless. Most of us, at least in this room, we do not believe that it's hopeless. We believe that we can go out there and make the world better. Jenner decides, I think, they appealed to his conscience and they appealed to his emotions rather than threatening him. And he sees the comparison. So he says, well, I can't open the main doors. Good luck trying to get out, but I'll at least let you out of this room. So he opens the door and most of the group leaves. However, Jackie and Andrea both decide to stay. Jackie basically is saying, well, I saw what happened to Jim and I saw what happened to Amy and I don't want that to happen to me. Basically, she's giving up hope. And basically, her and Andrea are basically like, well, unless you guys can't convince us, with 4 minutes left on the clock to get the heck out. Dale doesn't want to see Andrea go. So he stays while the rest of the group tries to escape. And Dale basically tries to say, this isn't what Amy wants for you. He tries to, get Andrea to come with him, but Andrea doesn't want to go. So while the group is able to escape, because when Rick was in the tank, trapped in the tank, he took a grenade off the soldier. And Carol ended up finding it whenever she was cleaning up his laundry. And so she gives it to him. She didn't, hand it over or nothing. She had it with her. So they put the grenade next to the window and they're able to blow the window open and they're able to get out. Dale is still trying to convince Andrea, and what he does is he uses a nice reverse psychology move on her. Basically, he just sits down and says, "Okay, I'm staying too." And Andrea's like, "What are you doing? You don't want to stay." And he's basically saying, "Well, I don't want to go through this life without you." Dale sees, I think that in this series, we know that Dale and Andrea get into a romantic relationship in the comics, but I think here it was more of a father-daughter relationship. And I just think that Dale saw Andrea as a daughter figure and basically said, you don't get to come into somebody's life and just check out, and he's basically just trying to prove a point. You mean a lot to me. I don't want to go through this world without you. If we have to go through and live through this, I'm making a decision. I want you with me. I want to, go through this Walking Dead apocalypse with you. And Andrea goes with him, mostly just because she doesn't want the death of Dale on her, head. She realizes, maybe she still believes in an afterlife or things like that. Whatever the case may be, she doesn't want to be responsible for Dale dying when Dale doesn't really want to die. So they end up going. Jackie and Dr. Jenner stay and hold hands, and basically the CDC explodes. Deegan's contaminating all of the products in there. Any virus or bacteria that they were practicing on is basically disintegrated, and Jackie and Dr. Jenner's bodies are also disintegrated, basically because the flames are so hot. And the episode ends with the group driving off, and I think that basically, it really was a nice way to end it, because what you did was you kind of closed off that storyline and just left them at well, what's going to happen next? It was, it's sort of a cliffhanger, but it's not like an extreme cliffhanger like in in the most recent season finale. I mean, that's the first season finale that I ever was like, like, come on, you can't leave me off with that. Other seasons, they've kind of left it off with like, well, you closed off a chapter, and we're basically waiting to see. Excuse me. We're waiting to see what happens next. Whereas, like unlike season 4's finale, where they're kind of just like, oh, well, we're starting a new chapter now. We ended with the beginning of a new chapter, and I think it was a nice way to end it. I think that overall, like I said, season 1 is a great season. Had a lot of great plot points, had a lot of great storylines to it. I think the only thing that was really wrong with it was that it was only 6 episodes. But again, that's not something that can be helped. You just have to work with what you have. And I can understand why AMC is not willing to dump all that money into a project that might not succeed. They had every right to believe that with any show, there's a 50-50 chance. It's either going to succeed or it's not. There's no mid ground. You're either going to let this show run its course or you're going to cancel it. And that's why I can kind of understand why they only wanted to give it 6 episodes. Because, again, there's a lot of stuff that had to go into making The Walking Dead. And I felt with what they did a great job, and they really set forth, various great storylines that they could use for the next season. And they also were able to, show us that they can provide a good story. And they were able to do that in seasons to come. I don't think that Walking Dead has ever failed in its mission. Ever. Sure, sometimes it takes a little detour and you're left going like this sometimes, scratching your head. But the thing is when you watch a season overall, like I just watched season 4, the DVD. And one of the things that I realized is, yeah, did it suck having to wait week to week to week for a couple of those episodes? Most certainly. But when you watch it as a whole, they're always great seasons with great stories, great drama, great action. They do the job that they set out to do. And I like that. And I can't wait to see what season 5 has in store for us. So I'm finished with season 1 reviews. I'll start season 2 reviews soon. And we'll basically just keep on trucking. We're 46 days away. We're getting closer, people. We are going to get to that premiere very soon. It'll be here before we know it. Thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you.